All right, everyone, welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Entertainment and Media. It's a bit of a deja vu moment. I thought for some reason that Fantastic Four First Steps was going to be released this week. And so I was going to ping my brother for another review for next weekend or the weekend after that, but it was released this week. So we're back with another review. Let me make sure I can see myself on the YouTube side. It is now a rainy Sunday, July 27th. And so hopefully the power doesn't go out while we do this. Because when it's thundering and lightning and raining and storming, sometimes power lines go down and generators have to kick in. So there I am on YouTube. So let me play my intro. It's a DC intro, but it's comic book themed. So you guys know what we're trying to do here. You know what this is. All right, I'll see you on the other side, and me and my brother Amal are gonna give our thoughts on Fantastic Four First Steps. My favorite villain in that series was Clayface. And I didn't really have any experience with Clayface up to that point, but it turns out that Clayface, just briefly, the story revolved around this actor, Matt Hagen. And Matt Hagen was a very accomplished actor. Somehow his face became deformed, and he started taking this substance. Matt Hagen started taking that ointment, that skin cream right there in his hand, which made him better temporarily, and he got involved in some criminal activity with one of the goons in Gotham City. And in one scene, they gave him an overdose of that stuff on his face, and to turn him into Clayface, this creature right here. I think it was a two-parter, because at the end of the first part, he started to impersonate Bruce Wayne. And then at the end of the second part, when Batman defeats Clayface, Batman's talking to Alfred, and he realizes, okay, Clayface probably faked his own death. So he's probably still out there running around somewhere. Welcome to Big Discussions 76, Entertainment and Media. Here I discuss media of all kinds, movies, TV shows, favorite characters, book readings, retrospectives, sometimes music, all media, all of it. All right, everyone, welcome back to Big Discussions 76, Entertainment and Media. And yeah, now it is monsooning outside, so hopefully nothing happens here. I'm not Reed Richards, so I don't. The only workaround I would have is to take the stream to my phone. I learned that when you're StreamYarding this, and once this space is going, you can access it from multiple places. So if this goes down, you may see me pop up in the studio for my smartphone, but hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, so we're going to give our thoughts on Fantastic Four First Steps from the MCU. They purchased the rights from, was it Fox or Sony? So now they have that, I believe, in addition to the X-Men. I think they have to they have to effectively rent Spider-Man out whenever he makes an appearance in the MCU. So before I bring my brother Amal up, there were a number of losses from the entertainment space this week in terms of actors and entertainers moving on to the next realm, whatever you believe that to be. Among them were Malcolm Jamal Warner. Hulk Hogan's passing was pretty controversial for reasons I won't get into right now. I believe Ozzy Osbourne passed away And then for you music heads who were into jazz in the 70s and the 80s, Chuck Mangione passed away. But from the actor space, Malcolm Jamal Warner certainly stands out. And yeah, Hulk Hogan made some cinematic appearances as well. And I suspect at least Ozzy Osbourne's music made some cinematic appearances as well. But with that, I had to acknowledge them. I'm going to bring up my brother Amal Dunbar now, and we're going to give our impressions on the Fantastic Four first steps. And I'm going to caveat this by saying that we did collect comic books growing up, but my brother and our best friend they're more knowledgeable on the Marvel side. So in many instances during this review, I will defer to my brother's knowledge of Marvel and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and just that lore and that universe. I'm more familiar with the cinematic side of it, so I don't know all the background the way my brother and others do. So with that, everybody, let's welcome up my brother Amal Dunbar to this discussion. Welcome, bro. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate you. Peace to the Big Discussions family. It's great to be here.
Okay. So bro, I have to give you a warning. If by chance power goes out, you'll be here on the stage.
Okay.
Until I can root back into my phone. So that's my plan B. All right.
Okay. Fair enough, bro. Fair enough.
You could take that time to show so you show your comic book, you could show your whatever you're working on.
Oh man.
That's happened to me before. I've been on someone else's stream and they've dropped for whatever reason, and I was there just kind of entertaining. All right.
Bro, I don't know enough about StreamYard to put my content up on the screen. So I would just talk through it, and I would probably try and text you to see what to do next, and if you were gonna try and jump back in. So we'll just make it work, bro. We'll just make it work.
All right. So Fantastic Four first steps. I thought it was going to come out this week, but it came out last week, and so here we are back doing another movie review. There was a lot of controversy, and should I say a lot of trepidation going into this one for numerous reasons. The big one being that Marvel, Kevin Feige's MCU was on a bit of a losing streak in terms of quality and in terms of fan reception and in terms of just where things had gone since Avengers Endgame. So a number of fans felt like that the thing kind of fell off the cliff after Avengers Endgame for a number of reasons. I thought that for phases 1 through 4, the writing was stellar, the casting was stellar, the storytelling was stellar, and then they kind of changed course. Well, you couldn't keep Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Scarlett. You couldn't keep them in those roles forever. So eventually, I think we're going to have to at least go in some different directions without those individuals. But they just kind of took a turn creatively, infused more social messaging, gender swapping, race swapping. You had the Disney Plus stuff, so people had to go to Disney Plus to watch their content and know what was happening in the movies, and then it just spun out into something very different than phases 1 through 4. Were you hearing that on your end going into seeing Fantastic Four first steps?
Well, yeah, some of Marvel's troubles have just been kind of trying to tell new stories or taking bits and pieces from the comic books and the graphic novels and trying to come up with something new for the films and for the TV shows when really all they had to do was just to mine the comic books, because there's so much good IP in the comics. They just should have stuck with what was there. Maybe mix it up in terms of, what major stories are told and in what order, but they should have just stuck with what's in the comic books. And then there was the legal side of, which media studios like Fox and Sony own which characters. So it's been a long road, but it's great to have the Fantastic Four, back in the MCU.
Yeah. So from a historical perspective, the team, the family, they're like one of the original creations of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby along with Spider-Man, right? So this is like one of their first creations.
Yes. I'm not sure. And someone in the chat can correct me. Were the Fantastic Four first, or was Spider-Man first? I enjoyed reading comic books when we were kids, but in terms of my history, I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure that the Fantastic Four were actually first before Spider-Man. So
okay.
Either way, it's great to have it back in the MCU.
Yes, I'm bringing up my image of Galactus here because I just thought of something else that you shared with me. I don't know if you came to this realization yourself, or if Tony and Matt from the Swamp Media Group, shout out to them, whether you guys talked about this in one of your discussions. But one of the things that let's see, phases 1 through 4 started, aside from Thor, those all started on Earth in terms of scope. And Captain America, the first Avenger, the Red Skull, he was playing around with the Tesseract, which came from Asgard. But in terms of scope, this one really went to outer space first, okay, initially. So we're starting off with the Fantastic Four going to outer space. That's where they got their powers. But I'm going to flash this picture of Galactus because I think it really drives home just how big in scope this movie was. And it for me, I remember pointing out that Man of Steel was a science fiction movie as well. This was a science fiction movie as well, and we'll get to that. But was it you, or was it Tony or Matt who pointed out that the Marvel movie, the Marvel universe deals with more aliens and extraterrestrials, whereas DC was more crime fighting on planet Earth. I remember you pointed that out to me once.
Wow, that sounds like something that Tony would say. Shout out to Tony, who would be Antonio Lacour on Facebook. He definitely pointed that out. So yeah, I mean, Marvel has some great space characters, and including Thor and the Silver Surfer. That may be where they have a leg up on DC. So
okay, so we'll dive into the movie there. So going in again, there was a lot of trepidation going into this one. It looks like there's some Pedro Pascal fatigue, and now that I think about it, he is everywhere. It seems as though people think he's been shoved into everything. My first recollections of Pedro Pascal were in Game of Thrones. He played Oberyn Martell. He met a grisly death, I think, in that first series of Game of Thrones, and then obviously he played Mando in The Mandalorian. But he's been a lot of places, so I don't know if he's just the it character, the it actor right now. But looking at many of the reviews for Critical Drinker and Tyrone Magnus, a lot of people are a little. A lot of people have, I think, Pedro Pascal fatigue. So I was he's of Latin American descent. He's got the trademark mustache. Of what I know of Reed Richards doesn't wear a mustache. I was looking at that aesthetically and thinking, okay, was this the right fit for this character? So there was that going in, and also the female Silver Surfer. I liked the previous iteration of the Silver Surfer with Lawrence Fishburne's voice. That was a male portrayal of the character, Norrin Rad. And I think going in, there was just curiosity of whether or not they would weave in social messaging into the story. So that's what I was thinking as I walked into the theater last night. I'm going to comment that, as I described, it was like Man of Steel. It was a hardcore science fiction movie in addition to being a superhero movie. And one thing that fascinates me, a lot of people have talked about the retro futuristic thing that they had going on. We could unpack that a little bit, but also I like that they opened the movie telling us that it was Earth, I think 838, and that's or Earth something. It was a specific Earth, and that's a concept in terms of multiverses. That's a concept that's fascinating to me, that there could be multiple Earths, there could be multiple realms of being. So maybe in another realm of being, there's another Anwar and Amal.
Yes.
Occupying completely different lives with completely different experiences.
Wow.
And so I thought that was fascinating that they did that. And I think maybe that was to tell us that we saw at the end of Thunderbolts that they're coming to that Earth. So maybe they did that to reemphasize that this is another Earth. So that was our story world. It was that Earth, and it was a retro futuristic setting. Did you think anything? Did you have any thoughts about the setting yourself or the story world?
When I left the theater, I felt like that world was very safe and very contained. I felt like that world was an almost perfect environment for the Fantastic Four to protect and guard that Earth and defeat whatever villains, that they came across on that Earth. It didn't. I don't know. It's strange to think of a New York City or the five boroughs in a Marvel universe where Spider-Man doesn't exist, or no one's even heard of him, or is Peter Parker's there? He's just not Spider-Man, or he's not Spider-Man yet. So I felt like I was disconnected from the typical Marvel universe, because the Marvel universe that we see, they try to portray the quote unquote real world, but they inject their characters in it. So I felt like that retro future was it was almost too safe, right? Until they came across the Silver Surfer, went out into space to see Galactus. But I just felt like that world was very safe, very stylized, and very contained. But I think it was necessary because it makes the audience clearly separate the world of, I don't know, is it the 616, the MCU that we know? Is it the 616 or the 623 versus the Fantastic Four's 828? So, in retrospect, their retro future was actually almost necessary to put the audience on another Earth, because that's clearly another Earth. So as a storytelling tool, it was necessary. Now that I look back on it, and I posted to Facebook, I would give the film a C plus, and I've been kind of struggling with that over the weekend as I've seen friends, comment on my Facebook post, And to all my Facebook friends, I would upgrade my C plus to a B minus. I had to sit with the movie and just hash out parts of it and rethink parts of it as some of the choices that were made in terms of the story and the editing, they were just necessary because they had to once again drive home the point that that is not our Earth, that's another Earth.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's go down that road for a moment there, and I think before the end of the stream, you could tell us why you gave it a B minus, a C plus upgraded to a B minus. So Tyrone, I was watching Tyrone's review of Critical Drinker's review last night, and Tyrone was of the opinion that, and here, and we're gonna get to your question in a second. Tyrone was of the opinion that when they gave it to the test audience, it was a very different version than the one that we saw. So there was more of the things I described a couple of minutes ago that people thought brought down the quality of the MCU's movies. So when you said it was cut up, if Tyrone is correct, then they did a lot of slicing and dicing of the movie after showing it to the test audience. And Critical Drinker, I don't have a cinematic eye like you guys, so I don't. Someone would have to sit down and point this out to me. But he said in his review that the third act was noticeably cut up in certain ways. I don't have a trained eye for these things, but that's what if there were issues with it in terms of continuity and jumping around, that's one of the theories that they really did some hardcore editing afterwards to bring us the movie that we saw in the theater.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Ahiran Bora, thank you for being here. Please smash the like button, everyone, no matter how long you stay. Please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed. It says, what are your expectations after the MCU resets? I'll go first. I'll be brief. Reports are, according to what Kevin Feige, or was it Kevin Feige or Bob Iger said, that they're going to essentially get back to the original formula. And I think that's what you want. I think you want to get back to the original formula and what they did in phases 1 through 4. Do you have an answer for this? Or any thoughts on this question, bro?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there have been so many films produced, there have been so many TV shows produced based on these longer stories that the MCU wants to tell. It's almost as though they're getting to the point of being like comic books, because as in the comic book industry, writers, editors, and artists come and go. And as writers, editors, and artists come and go, the books change, the directions change. There are new takes and there are fresh takes on the characters, their suits, their weapons, their relationships. Or do they get married, have children, get new jobs, change teams? Do the teams have new members? So there's been so many movies and TV shows created, they're almost starting to feel like comic books because there are new writers, new directors, new concept artists, which are going to give you newer takes on the suits and vehicles, and even some of the powers. In this Fantastic Four, we saw Johnny and Sue do things we didn't know that they could do in the previous films, or maybe some of those powers were expressed in the comic books that I didn't read. But yeah, you got to see Reed Richards, blend his ability to stretch with parkour. So yeah, as we get new producers, directors, writers, we're going to see fresh takes on the material, characters, and I'm all here for it. So
I'm sorry. Parkour, is that like yoga or something, or is that like some sort of stretching? I've heard of it. I can Google it right here. I don't have to ask, but back that
parkour would be French gymnastics and tumbling at the street level, where you've seen it in movies, you've seen it in films, you've seen it in YouTube videos, where it seems like these gymnasts and these street guys are running through environments kind of using gymnastics, and they never stop. So there are movies like or movie franchises like District, I want to say 13. There are some others, but there are films where you see parkour.
Okay, and now that I think about it, seeing some of the scenes last night, the way Reed was swinging around was very. Yes. It was kind of Spider-Man-esque a little bit.
A little bit. You could almost call the way that Captain America moved around, or maybe even a trained super soldier, especially in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. There are definitely some parkour scenes in how Steve Rogers, T'Challa move around when they want to get from point A to point B quickly without stopping.
Okay. All right. Now, relative to I didn't see the Fantastic Four with Michael B. Jordan in it, so I can't lend perspective on that one. I saw the initial Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, Jessica Alba. I saw those two movies. I was entertained by those. Did you like? How did you like this group?
How did I like the new group?
Yeah.
I mean, they all do well. I mean, I can't say I know all their names offhand outside of Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal. But no, they all did great in terms of bringing those characters to life on the big screen. I really liked the voiceover by the actor who played Ben Grimm. He really had a sweet, kind nature to him. He was very soft spoken, and he seemed to be able to see the big picture of what was going on in every scene. There were very few scenes where he couldn't, quote unquote, read the room. He understood his teammates. He understood the sentiment of people who were at the ground level, as well as politicians, people in the military. He was close to Reed and Sue, so he could see. He could almost see everything, if that makes sense. As to where Johnny was kind of self-contained in his world. I liked his arc. Sue was very concerned about Franklin's birth, and Reed is constantly overthinking things. But it seems as though the character, or the way the character was written for Ben Grimm, I almost didn't see him as the Thing. I saw him more as Bang.
Yeah. So let's see. Joseph Quinn played the Human Torch, and then this gentleman, Eben Moss Backrack, he played Ben Grimm. Yeah, that was one of the criticisms of going in, and that's that his voice should have been more. It's clobbering time, like Michael Chiklis's. So yeah, but I thought I'll just be brief here. I thought it all worked. I thought Pedro played Mr. Fantastic. I was satisfied with his portrayal of Mr. Fantastic, though I was initially skeptical about him being cast in that role. Mole Man, I liked that character, and the fact that they relied on his excavating the the lower world to help when Galactus came, and they told him, well, he's going to devour the planet from the inside first, so your people are going to get it first. So I liked that, and I noticed when Sue Storm was addressing the United Nations, I think it was the United Nations. I noticed that Latveria, the person sitting in the Latveria seat, they didn't have representation there.
No.
I thought that was significant, and I'll jump ahead to say there are spoilers here if you haven't seen it, so you can turn off if you want. But I thought that toward the end, when Reed was looking to enact his plan to teleport the Earth to another part of the solar system, if you looked at the map, you could see that one of the stations was down initially. I initially thought that was Latveria, and I thought that they were intentionally, Dr. Doom was intentionally throwing a wrench in the plan, but instead it was the Silver Surfer taking out those stations. So I thought that was interesting. I noticed they said, okay, Latveria is here, but they are not participating in this One World coalition.
Mm.
Did you have any thoughts on the Silver Surfer being female?
Well, they gave her the name they gave her the name Shalabal, who's Norrin Rad's wife on their home planet. I guess in the MCU that we know. So that was comic book accurate. I collected a very short run of the Silver Surfer in the mid '80s, and it was so spacey with so many aliens. I kind of got lost. There were some issues that didn't have any action, so I stopped after like issue 4. But nonetheless, it was a very interesting character. And even though in this film the character's female, I'm fine with that. I've actually been collecting some YouTube videos. I have a YouTube playlist of skateboarders and surfers, and I've just been looking at how skateboarders and surfers maneuver, high end tricks, or what do they look like when they're going really fast? Because I've actually wanted to do some Silver Surfer fan art. So to see scenes in the film where she is surfing on space rocks, space dust, plasma, or fire was a highlight for me. To see her crouch down and actually grab the board with one hand was a highlight for me, because it looked as though she was actually surfing on a material, or surfing on a surface that was uneven, and she didn't look comfortable in scenes while she was surfing, and I thought that was fun to watch.
Okay, yeah. I thought the story, I thought it worked. Pretty well. I'm shifting here to the overall story. At the beginning, I mean, they are the heroes of this planet. There are no Avengers on this planet. There's no Spider-Man. There are no X-Men on this planet. So they were it. Okay. And they kind of summarized, um, much the same way James Gunn summarized Superman's origin story. In that movie, they kind of gave a truncated version of how they got their powers, unlike in the original, the previous two movies with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans. And so again, they were the heroes of this world. They were astronauts, okay, and they were equipped to go in and out of space on the Excelsior, and they had a little hyperdrive unit out in outer space, and I liked that whole scope of being able to leave Earth and then go meet Galactus before he got to Earth. What did you think of the Galactus character?
I mean, it was good to see the character actually on screen.
Yeah,
I know there's been a lot of talk about how large he's supposed to be, and how in some scenes he's different sizes. So for me, it all worked. How would you accurately portray someone who's that large? So for me, all those scenes worked well. I love the voiceover. I'm not sure which actor did the voiceover for him, but all those scenes worked. I mean, his suit was so detailed. Um, uh, and I'm a huge fan of being able to show scale differences in one shot or in one scene. When you see Galactus, his environment, the Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four, and in some scenes, in some shots, they're all in one shot. And yet you get the feeling of how large Galactus is or how large the environment is, whether it was Galactus' ship or Galactus in New York City. I thought that was done very, very well. It actually reminded me of the work of Denis Villeneuve, who did the Dune films, as well as other great sci-fi, Blade Runner 2049. But Denis is really good at showing scale. So there were also scenes back in New York City where they were in the Baxter Building, and the team would walk out to the terrace and they would look out over the city, and you got this feeling as though they're in this massive tower, and you got to feel as though the scale was accurate. So back to Galactus, they did a great job with him. He was a highlight of the film.
yeah, I agree with that, and I was thinking in the Jessica Alba, Chris Evans series. As much as I knew about Marvel, I was expecting to see this character, but Galactus in that movie was this planet devouring storm slash entity in outer space. So
Yeah.
maybe you're a visual effects guy. I guess the effects hadn't evolved to that point yet where they could portray him like this. But I was very happy to see him like this. So he was pretty much in his own little spaceship or planet devouring apparatus existing in there, and he could leave it whenever he saw fit, which he did at the end of this movie. Tyrone suggested that whoever designed the concept for him must have watched the 1986 Transformers movie,
Oh
and drew upon Unicron for inspiration in
yes.
terms of being a planet eater and a planet devourer. Um, And so not Unicron, Galactus's motivation was their child. So their child, it seems, is going to be the center of whatever's going to unfold in Avengers Doomsday, because it seems what it seems that we saw at the end of this movie in one of the Easter eggs. That, again, if you haven't seen it, this is a spoiler. So you might want to turn this off if you don't want to hear the spoiler. But Doctor Doom is drawn to their child. Okay, and I think, why do I think that the reason they're coming to the Thunderbolts planet is because he stole their child? I think so. I feel like I heard that somewhere, that he takes the child, and that's what's bringing them to the Earth. Would you call it Earth 917 or Earth?
I think it's 613. I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong.
Okay, I've got these all mixed up, so don't listen to me.
Yeah, I think it's like either 613 or 623. And the Earth that the Fantastic Four is on is Earth 828. So
828.
I'm sure this will all be made very clear and simple at some point. You know.
Yeah. But it seems like from that Easter egg, for whatever reason, Doctor Doom was drawn to that child as well. We don't know why, but we know the child he has powers, which is why Galactus wanted him in the first place. Doctor Doom was drawn to him as well. So bro, we have keeping this to about an hour. We have about 18 minutes left. You want to talk about why you originally gave it a C- and then upgraded it to a B+? What were your issues with the movie?
Well, as an inventor, at one point I was going to get pretty involved with solar power tools and equipment, as well as wind energy tools and equipment. So there was a point in the film where Reed was going to need an incredible amount of power that didn't exist on his Earth. Now he had a bunch of gadgets, a bunch of devices, and even so with the Fantastic Car, there's a scene where you can see that the police in New York City also have flying cars, similar to the Fantastic Car. So this is a world that has some pretty developed technology, but it seemed as though they were very limited when it came to the power needed to power Reed's teleportation system that was going to move the Earth from point A to point B, which was some other part of our solar system. And for me, it just seemed as though, okay, you have all these gadgets, but you don't have solar energy devices, you don't have wind energy devices, you don't have any underwater current devices, which would be similar to putting a wind turbine but underwater. So again, there's a rocket that is space worthy parked right outside of the Baxter building, and Reed's got all these devices and all these gadgets, but when it came time to power this network that was going to teleport the Earth, they had to stop using power at like 6 p.m., which was a story tool to explain that Ben Grimm, the Thing, has to shave his beard and shave his head with a metal grinder, which was great to see. But I just feel as though when it came to addressing their need for a large amount of power, that's where the story for me got a little weak. For me, personally. but I had to learn to let that go. So.
Okay. Okay. Now I will say, since you mentioned that, I did notice, yeah, at the end. Thank you for pointing that out. He was wearing the goatee, at the end. And yeah, that was a good point about the power. And I was thinking myself in terms of astronomy and astrophysics. Maybe it was a good thing that they weren't able to teleport the entire planet, because if those of you who are familiar with uh, uh, astronomy, you know that their Earth is in its own ecosystem with Mercury and Mars and Venus and Jupiter, and they all have their gravitational pulls on each other and their gravitational pulls on the sun. So if you pull one out of there, if you pull the Earth out of there, you don't know what's going to happen to the entire solar system. And the Earth, there's a pulling phenomenon between the moon and the Earth that causes the tides. So maybe it's a good thing that the Silver Surfer destroyed all those teleportation devices, because maybe moving the Earth might have caused something more catastrophic. I was thinking that in the theater
Me
myself.
too. Yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
mean, it would have caused some sort of a vacuum, um, which could have been uh, which could have been, I don't want to use the word catastrophic, but it would have had an effect on the moon that was never discussed in the film. And as far as our planet goes, we need the moon. The moon helps to balance out the Earth's spin,
Hmm.
as well as its gravity. So yeah, moving the planet or teleporting the planet the way that Reed wanted to could have had some results that were bad for us, or for the people of the 828 Earth.
Okay. All right. So that that if you don't have anything else, that is the Fantastic Four by Matt Shackman. That was the director. Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 88% score, and on IMDb, it has a 7.5 out of 10. Just looking at this title by Variety, it says the Fantastic Four First Steps lifts off with a heroic $118 million dollar debut. I'm not going to attempt to get into the finances of this. I mean, there are channels who just focus on what was spent versus the marketing budget versus what its global box office is. So I'm not gonna pretend to be a pro in that. This it was good. It might be something I would go and see a second time. Certainly, you see things you didn't see the first time when you go see it a second time. But I thought that this was a good movie. I'll give it a let's see. I'll give it a B plus. A B plus. I liked Pedro. He did well. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so I like things the way that they're supposed to be. So I would have. I mean, you gave us John Krasinski and uh,
Doctor, Doctor
Doctor
Strange.
Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So I would have loved to see John Krasinski it back in the role, or someone else who looked more like Mr. Fantastic back in the role, and then also even though Shia LaBeouf was in the comic book version, I would have preferred to see the male Silver Surfer. But I thought it was yeah, it held my attention. I was entertained. I didn't really have any complaints, and I think that if the MCU, if they follow this formula, don't be too experimental. Don't yeah, keep it a comic book movie in the traditional sense. I think they can get it back on track to the extent that they can. So those are my thoughts on the movie. And also they did the tribute to Jack Kirby at the end. Yes, they try to stay as close as you can to what the original creators created. Did you like that tribute to Jack Kirby at the end?
It was fantastic, man. It was great. It was fantastic. I think there are lots of casual fans that have seen Jack Kirby's artwork and didn't know, you know, who was responsible for those drawings. But he had a massive impact on the comic book industry. I couldn't imagine the comic book industry without Jack Kirby's influence because he drew so many characters. I mean, he's got a very signature style, and his style did evolve um, over time, and he mentored several artists over at Marvel. Um, but yeah, I couldn't imagine the comic book industry without his influence. So great job.
Yeah, well, in my writing endeavors, all I just published a creative nonfiction book, but I also did write a draft of a science fiction novel, and I tried to do the Ridley Scott thing of creating some concept art and storyboards. And I remember you gave me the Jack Kirby handbook, and it turns out, yeah, for illustrators, that's a science in itself. I mean, no matter each artist has their own distinct look and their own distinct art, but there are some rules that, in terms of how human beings look and how human beings are built, there are some basic rules that you should respect. And I didn't notice that there was the ears, in terms of plane, are on the same plane with the nose, and your mouth is so many eyeball lengths below, and your chin is a certain number of eyeball lengths from your mouth, and there's, I didn't, as a biological scientist, I didn't realize that there was that natural symmetry in terms of how our heads and our faces are built, and even just the how a human man versus a human woman's body is naturally shaped in terms of your shoulders, your hip length. In general, there are a lot of natural rules that comic book illustrators are keeping in mind as they're creating their own unique images.
I think that book is called "How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way."
The Marvel Way, yep.
Which is a very popular book, globally. If you at all taken, comic book art seriously, it's probably a book that you come across or that you may even own. So, shout out to Jack Kirby.
Shout out to Jack Kirby. Okay. Well, bro, that's all I've got. Do you have anything else on this? I don't know what they're going to roll out next. Well, hopefully, once again, they stick to the formula and they put out something else of quality after this one. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Well, I mean, it was Marvel or the MCU. They needed that retro future as a storytelling tool, so that when the viewers look at that world, they know it's not the same world as the world that exists that has the Avengers. Okay, it would have been nice to have seen scenes where Reed got to chat with, another amazing inventor or engineer like Shuri in Wakanda, Hank McCoy, who is Beast with the X-Men, or even Tony Stark if he was alive. So typically, in the comics, those geniuses get to talk amongst each other when there's a large global threat. But I also I also have to give props to the writers, because they figured out what to do with the people of the New York City area once Galactus got there. So, kudos to them for putting the Mole Man and Subterranea at the beginning of the film, and then using that as a storytelling tool later on in the film, because where would those people go? I mean, yeah, the country, the military could have really focused on that area and moved those people, but in terms of moving them quickly, the fastest place for them, the fastest uh, the easiest way for them to escape would have been for them to have gone underground. So kudos to them.
Okay, and now that you mentioned that, I suspect once they hold on. One of the drawbacks to having your studio right next to the patio window is that you can hear all the emergency vehicles going by. I probably heard it better than you guys did, but as a scientist myself, I really appreciated the way they depicted Reed, and he had the chalkboard and all the formulas. And I suspect in upcoming films, once they come into the same universe with Bruce Banner and Peter Parker and Beast, you'll see a lot of that. A lot of much the same way Tony and Bruce Banner created Ultron and came up with those ideas. I suspect we'll see a lot more of that, and that's cool to watch.
Yes.
It's good to see that. It's cool to see that some of these characters are scientists, and that's how they got their powers, or either by accident or by intention. Yeah, so that I suspect we'll see more of that in the future.
Can I also add that I was very impressed with the montage of the entire world, going to work to build those
teleportation devices.
Yes, that was a very good montage to see, people on every continent, go to work and build this system that was going to attempt to save the Earth 828 from Galactus. Yeah, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, and I was sitting and thinking, wow, they have to mobilize and do this very, very quickly. They have to put all their squabbles aside, all of their conflicting agendas, and do this very, very quickly. And they almost did. It almost worked.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that they hadn't taken into account that those hyper pins, or those hyper stations, needed to be guarded. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
All right. I think that brings us to the end, everybody. As I described, I am a self-published author, and this is a story, a creative nonfiction story about what sports teach you about life, and how to succeed in the world. Some of the first stories in this book involved being, before taking an interest in basketball, involved being Star Wars, Star Trek, Voltron, G.I. Joe, and Thundercats. Kids, this is available on Amazon. For my YouTube subs, I'm selling the hardcover for $25 and the paperback for $22. You can use one of those methods there in the ticker. Just make sure you send me your mailing address as well. The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story, Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams. So with that, both of us have day jobs, which we have to get ready for tomorrow. So we're going to wrap the stream up, and try to get the things done that we need to get done in the rest of this Sunday. So,
sure.
yeah. So with that, thank you, bro, for coming and giving your thoughts on this movie. And with that, everyone, we'll talk to you the next time. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Before we go, I do remember this version of the thing. I think he was different than the Michael Chiklis version because the brows were more pronounced. And I don't know if I know I had an Incredible Hulk toy. I don't know if I had the Thing toy, but they fight at some point, right? Or they battle at some point in the comic books, right? The Thing and
yeah.
Okay, so maybe the MCU, hopefully they're thinking about treating us to that because he's strong. He's strong and he's burly and he's yeah, maybe they'll show us that. So
absolutely, and also really very quickly, there's a shot in the trailer of the Thing, Ben Grimm, barreling through the pillars of a building, almost like he's a running back. And
yes,
when I was watching that in the trailer, I was wondering, okay, why is he doing that? But but that's a very critical scene in the third act. That's a very critical part of how the Fantastic Four defeat Galactus. So shout out to the writers.
Shout out to the writers. Okay, and let's keep our fingers crossed for a Hulk Thing matchup.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Please, if you're on the replay gang, please leave comments in the comment section below, and also smash the like button and let us know what you think. All right, have a good day. Bye bye.
Peace.